Hi, everyone. Welcome to Domain Sherpa. This is a Domain Sherpa review where we bring on domain name experts to discuss names they recently bought and sold. And we also review a list of domains about to go up for auction on NameJet. Today, we've got Brian Harbin and Michael Law from Grit Brokerage, along with Shane and I. And it's a great discussion where we talk about domains, of course, Clubhouse, NamesCon, and more. It's a fun show with some terrific insight. So let's get to it. What's up, Sherpa Network? Thank you for tuning in today. I'm Jonathan Tenenbaum, your host and producer of Domain Sherpa, where you learn to become a successful domain investor directly from the experts. Today's show is a Domain Sherpa review, so we'll get into the minds of successful domain investors using real examples so we can learn strategies and tactics to become better investors ourselves. So as usual, there are 3 segments to the show. First, we start off by learning what the Sherpas recently bought or sold. Next, we'll review a list of domains coming up for auction on NameJet and to see what the Sherpas think. And then after that, we'll discuss current trends and things that are going on with the Sherpas or with the world or the domain space in general. So let's go ahead and introduce the Sherpas. So today we've got the guys from Grit Brokerage, and that's gritbrokerage.com, or you can find their parent company, grit.org. And it's helpful. I just introduced Brian Harbin and Michael Law. What's up, guys? How you doing?
Hey, JT, thanks for having us.
All right. And we got my man Shane here, but I want to go in really quick just to give the audience an introduction to what Grit is all about. So those guys have brokered a ton of really, really great domains, including ice.com, which is a top 20 sale all time in the domain space, doors.com, knife.com, series.com, prove.com, panda.com. You know, just a couple of decent names if you're into that sort of thing. So individually, we've got Brian Harbin. Brian is down to in the corner right there. And he's the founder of Grit Brokerage. He got his start in business in college, actually selling educational books door to door. Ended up as the #1 salesperson out of over 2,500 in his final year. Simultaneously built a multi-million-dollar sales organization of 64 college students and became one of the top 10 recruiters in the history of a 140-year-old internship program. So pretty impressive. Got an early start and just making things happen. Went on to build an insurance brokerage firm from scratch with 20 plus agents that still generates 8 figures in total premium each year. And after that, he pivoted his skills to domain names, which involved, like I said, the ice.com sale. And, so a lot of success for Brian. Brian's also a great guy. He's a flag football coach, so we might have to talk some flag football before the end of the show. And he's actually based where I am here in Jacksonville, Florida. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Thanks, JT. Appreciate it.
All right, man. And then we've got Michael Law, who's also a practicing partner at Grit. He's got over 12 years of domain and sales experience, a background in direct sales and finance. He understands the power of a great brand and why pairing that with a premium domain name is one of the most important tasks for business owner, entrepreneurs, and corporate execs. He's also hosted several domain industry events in Denver, where he lives, as well as launched the popular domain news blog nametalent.com. So Michael's been in the space for a long time with a lot of success himself. So very happy to have you on the show, Michael. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks, JT. Really appreciate it. Happy to make a first appearance with you guys.
Yeah, it's going to be great. And then, and as usual, I got my man, 50 grand, Sugar Shane Cultra, Honey Shane. If you don't know, I mean, I've introed Shane like a dozen times. It's like, man, just check out the bio, go to dsad.com, bhouse.com, his new honey venture, wormcasting.com. 30 seconds, man. What is worm casting? What is that? Because we talk about the honey thing a lot, but we haven't talked about the worm casting.
Yeah, so it's like nature's slow release fertilizer. When a red wiggler worm especially, eats leaves and composted stuff, they poop it out, but they don't digest the nutrients. So they encapsulate it as they poop it out. And so you get this, the poop is actually a nice fertilizer that's slow release because it's all encapsulated and covered. You put it in your garden, you put it in your cannabis plants. We've been using it for 20 years, but now the cannabis people, they love it. They love mixing it in the pot. So literally in the pot. So it's a hot market. We sell, 18 semis of it. So, tens of thousands of pounds. It takes a lot of worms, billions of worms to make all that stuff. So
wow. I didn't know that we were going to talk about worm poop necessarily today, but here we are.
Man, you got to have nature working for you. Got to have nature working for you.
So are you guys actually selling the stuff, or is it the worms themselves? Like, so when when I buy a bag, right? Do I get is it just the fertilizer is what I'm getting?
It's just the results of it. You can buy
Okay.
the worms if you want to do it yourself, but yeah, we mostly
Okay.
sell just the castings as they call it. But
Okay, worm
you can
castings.
buy the worms too. Yeah, no, put it right under your sink. Just throw your banana peel right under the sink and have compost for your plants.
I dig it. And a great, category killer domain, right? Wormcasting.com.
That's what it's all about.
Like,
I mean,
can't
that's what
do better than
they
that.
were both sitting here. I always tell everybody, you tell somebody you sold a name for 850,000. Everybody else gets excited about the price. I get excited about who had enough business, moxie to build a business that can afford an $850,000 name. So if you made some money, just think how much they're making. So I want to be on the business side, but I understand domain names enough to make it work for me. So, money's in domains, no doubt about it, but the real money is the person who knows how to use it.
Yeah, the real money's in worm castings. That's what it is.
That's exactly right.
All right,
It's
cool,
pretty
man.
cool, Shane. I'll have to chat with you a little bit more about that offline. We do a lot of gardening at my dad's house.
No, that's Drew. Rosner's always saying, I want in,
Yeah.
because he loves worm casting. So
Oh, well, yeah,
it's so
especially because it
funny.
overlaps well with the cannabis stuff. And, we've got a bunch of cannabis
Yeah.
investments, and Drew's a co-founder of ganjapreneur.com, the #1 blog related to cannabis news in the cannabis space. So, and he's just a fan of cannabis in general. So, there's a lot of overlap there.
It all comes together.
Yeah,
Somewhere, one way or another, it all comes
lead to
together.
domains. All roads lead to
exactly
domains.
right.
Bam, Domain Sherpa, DomainSherpa.com. All right, cool. So with that, I appreciate all you guys taking the time to be here. Really looking forward to the show. And so with that, let's dive into our first segment, which is what's new. And that's where the Sherpas share details of a purchase or a sale that they made recently. They'll name the domain and the other Sherpas will guess the price. So we talked offline and, Brian and Michael, they do not know, you guys don't know the prices of the names that you're going to talk about, right?
Correct. I'm actually going to go through an acquisition, but I'll let Brian go ahead.
All right. Yeah. Well, let's go ahead. Brian, why don't you lead off? So you got a sale or a purchase? You go ahead and kick off and let us know.
Yeah, sounds good. And by the way, just recently found out about Game 7 music. That's pretty awesome. I didn't realize JT you had a background in music back in Philadelphia, right?
Yeah. So, and for the audience's benefit, so, I used to do a hip hop thing. And so we had a hip hop group called Game 7. And, we did some stuff. We opened up for Naughty by Nature. Well, I opened up for Naughty by Nature, Sugar Hill Gang, some other folks as part of as part of a different thing. But the Game 7 group, we opened up for Lil Wayne, Asher Roth, Wu-Tang Clan. Wu-Tang Clan was a big bucket list moment for me. I'm a huge Wu-Tang fan. And cool. So we'll see. At some point, we'll have to get something going here on the show. But it's our last album out of it was probably 2012. So it's been a little while, and it's a little bit further in the rear view. But it's funny. My setup for podcasting is like the most technically advanced audio setup I've ever had. So even though all the years making music, I'm more set up now to maybe I'll have my kids start dropping albums or something. You know what I mean? Because I got all.
So you're saying we can search on YouTube and we'll find you rapping?
Yeah, maybe I'll put some links up. Maybe I'll. You got to be careful. There's a couple other Game 7s, and they're not us. So we had some success, but not to where it's so easy. But to find us, but we're on Apple Music, Spotify, all that kind of stuff. So I'll serve up some links for the benefit of the audience if they feel like checking it out. So
I'd love to check it out.
That's fantastic.
That's what's up. All right, cool. Well, I appreciate that, man. So, all right, now with that, go ahead, Brian, give us a name and let's see if we can figure out what it either bought or sold for.
All right. So good deal. So kind of in the spirit of NamesCon, I know they talked a lot about, some non.com sales like .co, .ai, .io. So this is actually a .co domain. Sold about a week ago. So the domain name is alias.co, alias.co.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
All right. And did you buy it or sell it?
So sold it
Sold
for a
it.
client. Yep.
All right, Shane, man, let's start with you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm the prices are moving up. There's no doubt about it. I've always talked. I feel like, it's going to get lost to the .com in some of it, but the bigger it gets, the more people know it's an independent string. So, great name. What a keyword. And .co, and it's all over board. So I would say, in order to get grit involved, it's got to be a good price. So I will say 12 grand. I'm going to say 12 grand because it's a .co.
All right. Put Shane on the books at 12K.
That's exactly right. I'm on the books.
All right, Michael.
Cool. So I don't know specifically this price. I do know that a lot of the domains, the .co domains that we're working on and the price points, I think it's going to be a bit higher.
So you got inside.
Yeah. He's like, I don't know how much, but
I know that
we
we won't touch
totally
anything
wrong.
for
He's
he's
under
like, how do I make a guess that's going to be just far off
totally
enough?
wrong. So I'm going to go with 25. Yeah, 25.
All right, 25K. So
Yeah, Michael's like, we wouldn't even touch it for 12 grand. So I know it's not that.
yeah, and so when I first heard it, my thought was somewhere in like the 15 range. I mean, I love the name. Shout.co was a name that was up in the NamesCon auction that I liked a lot. And then I think that undersold at like 5 grand. I think that name sold a few years ago for like 19. Actually, this was some of the dialogue that was going on during the auction when that was closing. But I really, even as a .co, I think it's great. So yeah, and this one is kind of like that. So I'm not gonna be as aggressive as Michael. I'm gonna say 20K. That's gonna be my guess. And starting to track like what people guess on these names. At some point when we get our post-production tight, we'll do like the ding ding and some. We got to get something going that have a little fun with it. But
where's your laser gun?
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I don't have it here in the room. I think my kids have since confiscated it back. They're like, Dad, stop taking our stuff. But so I'm saying 20K. All right, Brian, what's the deal?
Yeah, so it's 40K was the final price. And it was a payment plan. So they did basically like a third down and then financing the rest over, I think maybe like 24 months. Yeah, so that was,
so I got the down payment right, almost.
That's right.
Yes,
that's
well,
right.
I thought we were just guessing the down payment.
I just saw the down payment. I'm really confused how this whole thing works.
That's what it is. Yeah.
So for the payment plan, so who do you guys use to who manages the payment plan? Do you guys handle that in-house or you use one of the payment platforms to do that?
Yeah, so escrow.com
Okay.
is who's using that for us. And so this is actually a client, been managing some inbound for this particular client for a few years. So this was an inbound lead, and they actually had inquired about a different oneword.co domain. So I put a few different ones in front of them, and this is one that they ended up going with. So
I love it, man. Great job. I think it's a great price on the sell side. And if the buyer's got the use for it, I mean, I think it's a great domain name. So definitely a win-win, but really good on the sell side. So nice work and good job, Michael. It's really, really strange that you were the one to guess that correctly, but let's see how we do now. So why don't we
he was still off a little bit.
No, he
to
was.
Make it
He
seemed like he really didn't know.
It was a conservative guess.
No, it was good. All right. Well, with that, Michael, why don't you go ahead and tell us what do you got? You got a purchase or a sale?
Yeah. So I picked up a domain recently. I buy domains as well. I've been investing for a while, but most of my time is focused on getting our clients' names sold. But I picked one up. It's been a little while, a couple of weeks, right at the end of last year, maybe. But it's experiencex.com.
Yeah, those names are hot. Like keyword X names have done real well.
All right, so that's experiencex.co.
.com.
Oh, it is .com. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is the .co show. All right, cool. So experiencex.com. All right, Shane, man, I think you got to lead off again.
Well, it's on the buy side, so it's a little easier because we know they're great sellers. But the funny thing about that is if we would have purchased that 3 years ago, you could get those names all over the place. You could take anything with an X, but then places like StockX, and then the sales are starting to pile up. So I would say you would have to pay right now, say $1,200. I would just say, and again, it's all over the board, but if you picked up at auction, I would think it'd be a little over $1,000 right now. Obviously you can sell it for a lot more because the sales have been anywhere from $5,000 on up with the X names. And of course the booths, I think, have some, and Drew, if I remember.
Yeah, we've got, well, DomainX is our, parent company,
Domain
and,
X,
we've got DNX.com and, our, super premium platform. So it's, we're definitely a fan. All right, Brian, what do you think, man?
I think, probably would have been willing to go up to like 1,500 on it, but I think, you probably got it for 750 would be my guess, be what you actually paid for it.
Yeah. And so then I'm going to, I don't know if it's just because I usually go last and I'm always like kind of throwing myself in the middle here, you know what I mean? But I think that's kind of where I'm at here as well. So I'd say I'm probably $900. I mean, I think sort of the same thing that Shane said. X domains are big, SpaceX, like, obviously, I think as a purchase, you're a discerning, experienced, actor in the space, right? So it's like, I don't think you're overpaying, but I think it's a great name. So at the same time, it's like, sometimes those opportunities come along and you just got to do what you got to do. So I'm gonna say $900, and that is my final answer. So Michael.
Cool. Yeah. So you guys all pretty much nailed it. Shane was the closest. So I got it for $1,105.
All right.
At a drop catch auction. So I love the name. It's 4 syllables plus the X already. So it's a little bit longer. I probably would have kept bidding a bit higher for it. And it's funny, I think I noticed since I picked it up, I think experience.com changed hands. I forget who sold that, maybe Saw. I think the guys and gals at saw.com might have sold that. But was pretty happy with the investment, and you guys are kind of right on there.
Yeah, no, it's all good. All right. Well, that's good. I think, it's different, like a .co, especially like a one word kind of killer, the range is a lot bigger. It's harder to pin something like that down, something like this Experience X. And I also like how it's almost like experience, there's almost a way to tack it on at the end, but like it's obviously a smaller window, which makes it a little bit easier, but yeah, I mean, that's a good buy. And it's a great
And the
name.
buy is a lot easier to predict than the sell, because there's so many things involved on the sell side. How bad does a person want to sell? Who's approaching? It just can be all over the place. I mean, if you'd have said it was 15,000, I would have thought it was a great sale, maybe as well. Another person would have said, "Oh, at 40 grand, you let that go too cheap, because in 2 years that's a 6." So the sell side is really hard to predict. The buy side, we know on the wholesale market. I mean, especially when we deal with it every single day, you can get a pretty good range where you feel where something's going to go. And if it gets out of your range, then you got more to learn, or it's just out of your range. What if it's important to you at that price? So,
yeah, man. No, that's a great point. And with that, Shane, what do you got by way of purchase or sale?
All right, it's in the same niche. So I was on Clubhouse and listened to a 3-hour cannabis. I don't even grow cannabis. I don't even smoke cannabis. I don't even take cannabis, but I'm enthralled with the business. I just love to hear people, how they're making money, how much per square foot, because I grow plants for a living. So I, for a decade, have been buying plant names. So I found one that I really liked. I bought Alpha Grow, ALPHA grow.com. And I like it because in the cannabis, they don't call it canna. They don't want the plant name in their name. They want some boutique name or something that kind of establishes what they do. So Alpha Grow can go in any horticultural area, not just, I'm talking it up to myself. It's the truth.
You did good.
Yeah.
I like it, man. I definitely dig the name. Look, cannabis is, and I think as we continue to see, legalization and decriminalization and everything else. I mean, we obviously know that cannabis is a hot market and with a ton of opportunity. Yeah, it's really funny. I thought, for you to be a plant guy, you definitely have a different sort of approach to it. But like you said, it doesn't even necessarily need to be cannabis. It doesn't even necessarily need to be plants. I mean, but yeah, I dig this name a lot. So, all right. Well, with that, let's start with Michael. Why don't you go ahead and throw out what you think he bought it for? So it was a purchase, right?
Purchase.
All right.
Yeah. 2word.com, good words and easy to spell. I think, And knowing Shane, I know he'll pay up if he really sees a name. So it might depend. If it was in an auction, it could have got pushed up higher than maybe the zone that a normal investor would have gone through. But I'll say 1,500 on that one.
All right. 1,500. Brian, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, so my thought would be, yeah, you'd be willing to pay a little bit more just because you be able to put it to use. But my initial thought was 1,400, but wouldn't be surprised if you went a little bit higher on it. But yeah, 1,400 be my guess.
All right, so we got.
They can't go in the middle.
We got exactly like 14.
Yeah, exactly.
14,
Tighten it up so he can't get the middle.
All right, so all right, right now I'm just waiting for the Sav ad to disappear from name bio. Then I can.
Right. You gotta click it.
So
you gotta click how many buses you see.
All right, so now so anyway, I think for me, I think it's $1,000 name. I think it's one of those things that it's a purchase. I think you can sell this name for a lot more, no doubt. But I think when you look at it for knowing Shane and it's not cheap, but I think that a little bit better than your guys' guesses. My guess would be $1,000.
Yeah, so I paid right on the money, JT, $950.
Okay.
Dollars, and that's I have happy
Damn.
grow and I just add grow, tons of grow names and names just along those lines, and I like to get 10 grand a piece or more, so 1,000 is what I'm looking to spend to get my 10x, and I keep that in a range. I would have gone a little higher. I'd probably even double that price just because I know they sell super well. The agriculture is never going away, but we've added some new markets in agriculture that have added to the kitty and are spending a lot more. And a good brand's a good brand, as that's the basics of it. But yeah, that's my niche too. So anytime I see a grow name, and of course I'm going to get bumped. I shouldn't say that. I'm going to get bombarded with
Yeah,
emails.
exactly. You're like,
Hey, I have X grow, but yeah, I do like the grow, and I do root and grow. That's the other one. I buy any root name because I think root kind of has that same feel to it.
Yeah, no, I think it's a great name. I think it's a good price. I did, again, I pulled it up on name bio, so I think I did pull up your actual purchase, although I was going to be in the $1,000 range either way. So I feel like I can still take credit for the win, but just in full disclosure. But
well, it's kind of like Michael. I thought for sure people would go to that 4 figures, and then you're just gonna have to weed them out and bump them up a little bit. I figured it'd be $1,100. That seems to be a range. If you're at 1,105, you find out if they really won or not.
Yeah. No, for sure. So
and that was in an auction as well.
Yeah, it was JT. I'm assuming GoDaddy.
It was like GoDaddy. Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, good stuff. So. All right, cool. Well, I think, with that, we cleared our first segment. So really quick, let's take a minute and we're going to let all y'all know about some of our sponsors, and we'll be right back with the second segment with Shane and the guys from Grit Brokerage.
Media Options is the industry-leading domain broker specializing in domain acquisitions, high-value domain sales, and domain name consultation. As pioneers and thought leaders on the subject of the domain aftermarket and domain name value, plus, through their clear domain acquisition service, Media Options offers startups and established corporations an unparalleled scope of high-value domain options, providing access to domain names and curation technologies not available elsewhere. Media Options believes in the power of a great domain name and is dedicated to helping you obtain yours. Call or email today to put a domain to work for you.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Domain Sherpa. We're on to our second segment, which is the NameJet list, sponsored by NameJet. And here we review a bunch of domains that are headed to auction. And if you like any of these domains, definitely make sure you go check it out quickly, because some of them will be going to auction within a few days of the airing of this episode. So, and one thing we're going to start to do, so we'll have a spreadsheet, an Excel sheet below, above the comments that you'll be able to download, which will give you some information, the Esteban appraisal, the amount of back orders, how many days from the air date that it actually goes to auction, as well as some additional information that we pull off of Esteban. So with that, so you can utilize that as a resource to help yourselves kind of figure out exactly what's going on with those. They'll also have the link to the domains on NameJet so that you can figure out like where they are and decide if you want to participate on them and what you want to do. But that's what this segment is about, to give you guys some guidance around what we think those names are worth and which ones we think are good, which ones may not be the best ones to spend some attention on. And we'll go from there. So with that, sent the list around to the team before the meeting, or before the show. Shane, you first, man. What do you think? Any names jump out at you particularly?
Yeah, I think we're probably all going to be on the same 3 names. So the one that sticks right out is RZR, and it just looks razor. I mean, that's I see razor right off the bat. It's a good looking name. It's short. That's a crowded market right now, so as far as an end user. But even a little piece of that market's a big market. So, I mean, some of us use it on our whole head.
Exactly. It's funny, without having like Mar or Drew, like there's a lot of hair on this episode, man. We haven't been this flush lately, so
I'm just gonna, when I take off the hat, I'll join you eventually. I'm in transition period.
Hey man, it's all good. The hat looks good though, so it's all good.
Yeah, it's it's my
hat. So rzr.com. I mean, that's a great one. For new investors who don't have a big budget, will probably get priced out of that one pretty quickly. I think that it'd be interesting. That one has about 27 days from the date that this. And this show will air in the next, I think, 48 hours. But curious to see if it sticks. That if it gets renewed, or because these domains that are on NameJet, keep in mind, they still have the possibility of being renewed by the actual registrants. So, they may not get all the way to auction, but if it does, this is going to be an enormous sale. I mean, I think this is a 100K domain.
It'll never make it though. I think it has a 5% chance of rolling through this early. If it was a week out, I'd say, yeah. But being a month out, it's
well, and that's why I try to take a selection, right? Especially ones like that. There's a few in this list that were so good that I just had to bring them up, because if they do go all the way through, they're going to represent really, really incredible opportunities, but obviously a handful of these are 10 days or less, a couple that fall sort of in the middle, but yeah, no. So but I'm with you. I think that one to me is like, sort of the jewel if it goes all the way through. But it's not going to be a cheap acquisition, even in the aftermarket.
You're going to do a small Midwest home for that one.
Yeah.
I do everything in middle American homes. That's how I ask. They're like, how much you want? I want 3 middle American homes for that.
Omaha.
That's like 140 grand is times 3, basically, for the math. And the other one I like, and again, I'm always curious to see, because this is my naming convention that I used when I first started, is 5-letter. So Botto. I did a consonant, vowel, 2 consonant, vowel. I just felt, those are names that I could hand register or get cheap, that I thought made great brands. It didn't represent anything, but could become anything. So, I did lots of, or 2 vowels, like I did Weeba and Koozie, just, little names like that. And Botto fits that type of name. It got a lot more expensive. So they used to be several $100s, but in the last couple of years, I think even like that's going to go over $1,000 now, even though it doesn't, unless it represents something, you can always search it and it could mean something in a different language. But just as a general meaningless 5-letter vowel consonant combo that flows off the tongue, that's now a 4-figure name. So I think it should do pretty well.
Yep, I would agree. I mean, I think
and then the end user is what you sell it for, could be anything. That's one of those things, if you want to move it quick and someone comes. But so that's one, and I'm going to try to leave some meat on the bone for these guys. Fingertips a good one, but I'm going to leave it for these guys because it is so nice. And then I'll say some negative. So like on Sky Home, I think that good keyword homes names are good. There are a lot of builders out there, and they, how many premier homes in the world there are. There's probably 1,000 companies named Premier Homes that build or do something in the homes. Sky Homes would be a builder name. Sky Home puts you into a type of house, or, the brand's not nearly as strong when you're talking a singular thing. So that's a name that people think we're cool, but if you look who's going to buy it, I think they want the plural on there to represent that they build or create. So that's one that I think is not as good.
Right. Probably not worth what it's ultimately going to cost you in auction, depending on what you're going to use it for or where you think you're going to sell it. So,
Yeah.
I would agree. I think, I think that's a
Yeah.
good point.
And then one last one I'll say that I think is a great build out is road safety. There's a lot of money in signs. You can't do public signs, but you can do private signs and hazard signs and different plaques and signs and exit signs and all kinds of things in that area that I think you could do really well, especially even drop ship or reselling Uline stuff. It's a good build out. As far as a brand name. Sometimes when names don't have a ton of personality, I just don't like them because the effort of the build out is everything. The name is okay. This one has a little personality just because I know the safety market is giant. So I think that's a great name if somebody has true intentions.
Okay. Yeah, no, I dig that. So Michael, what do you think, man? And whether talking about any of the names that Shane mentioned or any of the other ones on the list that are interesting or you think you'd stay away from, what do you think?
Sure. Yeah, totally agree with Shane on road safety. I think, that's a great build out name. Like he was saying, signage is money, and it's just great keywords. So agree with him on that. And then on Botto, I did look it up. It is actually a word. It's a noun, and it means a sharp, quick, explosive noise, such as made by a cork when it comes out of a bottle. So,
so that's the sound a cork makes when it pops off the bottle.
I guess that's what that is.
Use that in a
some
sentence.
brands around that, and it's a good name. I like that. I put reseller maybe would be even up to 2,500, maybe a little higher, and then retail. It's tough. It could go as high as 25,000 or more. Just depends on the seller really, and the buyer, of course. A couple other names that stuck out to me. Insurrection was pretty cool. It's a word that's trending right now. Not sure if that's something you would name a business or a brand, and if the current events are even if that's helping or hurting the values.
Sounds like an MMA clothing line.
I was just going to say that's like Affliction. I see it as like like a clothing line where you're talking, like tight t-shirts and that kind of thing, and insurrection clothing,
So that's really interesting.
With all the talk of insurrection, though, it could be insurrection supplies. You know what I mean? Get your, everything you need to storm the Capitol at insurrection.com.
And buy your podium.
Right. So that's an interesting one for a new investor, or for an investor. This is still going to be a 5-figure name, most likely. Hard to put a retail price on it. I don't think it's a 6-figure domain as far as reselling it.
Yeah. So that's one maybe to think twice about, depending on what it's going to sell for. Interestingly, it's up there in, the appraisal value is the second highest of all the names on the list behind RZR. Sky Home is actually the third on the list. And, the CPC is the highest. And I wonder if it's, because of the word home being in it, I think that's sort of an interesting one, like you said, Shane, where, it's almost like, is the juice worth the squeeze based on some of the metrics are driving the value in a way that, are almost, like it's artificially inflated or something, so.
Yeah. And that's why they're going to buy it. That's the thing, is a new investor is going to see that and say, hey, it's valued the third highest on the list and it gets this amount. But again, you got to think who your buyers are.
There's a lot of trademarks around the Sky term, Sky plus keyword as well. So it's something to keep in mind.
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah. I wonder, I think about apartment buildings, penthouses, things like that. Like, how do you, how does that get turned into, something? Is there other products, something that's, we're not living in hot air balloons yet. So, or something, there's no like, you mentioned drones with something else recently. I'm just trying to think.
I mean, it could be home goods, like, home furnishings and home goods, Sky Home, where it's stuff for inside the home. So there is a market to it, but you're going to get brutalized with the plural, as far as people typing it out. Or an
interior designer, something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there is use case for this one.
Yeah. All right. Cool. What else, Michael? Anything else on the list?
I like Rescuers. It's not a super high value name. When I see that, I think of like dog rescue or something, maybe pet space. That's a pretty big growing industry. Or it could be, you know, emergency as well. Not a super high value name for a reseller. For an investor, I'd probably want to be under 2,500 ish, around there. And then retail would be, you know, maybe, you know, if you're looking for 10x, you know, around, you know, 15,000 maybe to 25K.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's an interesting one. You know, you talk about like bug out supplies and survival stuff or something like that, or, you know, now, you know, masks and everything else. There's maybe some things that could sort of, you know, overlap there to give it some value. But all right, cool. Well, Brian, I don't want to, we're going to have talked about every name before we even get to him. He's going to be like, oh, great. You guys left me with.
No, it's all good. Yeah, no, actually, I was going to give my 2 cents on some of these. Like, you know, with Lotto, I thought about if there were ever such a thing as Bitcoin Lotto, you know, people can win Bitcoin through the Lotto. That would be a good name, a scratch off Lotto. You know, with RZR, I was thinking about all the money. So you guys have probably seen the commercials for Manscaped recently. They use like Rob Gronkowski, and they've kind of got these, you know, sexy-ish type commercials, but, you know, and then you guys remember the Dollar Shave Club? It was a YouTube video that went viral, like 27 million views, but, you know, there's a lot of money obviously in the razor, industry. So that would be, you know, and of course you have the kids, you know, scooter as well. I agreed with road safety as well. I mean, I was thinking about just about every house in our neighborhood has one of those, you know, slow kids live here type signs. I think it'd be pretty easy to monetize that one. You know, cones, you know, orange vest, things like that. You know, people that like bike safety, you know, all the lights and gears that people put on it. You know, rescuers I thought was pretty good. I'd actually like that more as a .org, but, you know, there's definitely some use case for that. One trap I would encourage people I mean, if, in my opinion, FND, I love .org, but FND.org, I wasn't crazy about that one. I would hope, you know, an investor wouldn't spend too much on that one, but, cause I mean, typically on NameJet, like a 2-letter .org would sell for around 10K. So, I mean, I see the Esteban there's at 14, but, and I also did like Voice Lab. I think that is a good one just with, all these voice activated, you know, type businesses that Voice Lab makes sense. And Fingertip I thought was interesting because, you know, like anytime you go to a gas station, it's funny how, you know, you're supposed to wear a mask, but then you're supposed to sign with the credit card. And, you know, here's this pen that literally every single person coming in the store has signed with, you know, same with the grocery store. So I always sign with my fingertip, right? Because it still works, but you don't have to pick up the pen. So a fingertip type signature, I think that makes a lot of sense too, where people, you know, either it's on an iPhone or in one of those type machines in a gas station or grocery store, but fingertip, I think, makes a great brand for an e-signature type platform.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
So,
I think that. Yeah, man. I mean, and I think that Voice Lab probably one of my favorites on the list. I think because of the fact that it's compared to some of the others, it's a little more low profile. You know, I think it had the lowest amount of back orders out of all the names on the list. And I would agree. Now it's also 18 days out, so you know it's got some time. But yeah, I mean, I think that you've got all of this, you know, right here we're on a podcast, right? And then you've got all this other, you know, sort of voice recognition kind of stuff going on, Siri and some other things. You know, it's anything from, you know, being able to do, you know, any kind of effects on audio, all the way down to, you know, even sort of like you know, almost like a Zoom type of application. So yeah, I think Voice Lab to me is one of the ones I really like. I also think because it represents an opportunity to probably buy one of the cheaper names on the list. And and I think the fingertip thing is interesting. If there's like some sort of app to make that even, or some way to interact with your phone or devices with your finger, like kind of, if your laptop's not touch screen, but if there's some way to create a device that could start to make certain things touch screen that otherwise wouldn't be, or something like that could be kind of neat. There may be some stuff out there. I don't know, but what about thisone.com? I mean, is there any interest in something like that? Does that have any application? I think it's like the only one. That and World of Brands are the only two I don't think we talked about. And for those two, I mean, anything?
Get them for $69, they're fine. They're not bad names. World of Brands. If you have a domain site on, let's say you put it on FD and you put your whole portfolio, that's fine. I mean,
yeah, that's cool.
That's a good name for that if you're going to use it. Resale is going to be tough. And this one, I don't know, what's the running joke? Like, what are two guys? And then you go, this guy?
Yeah.
I can't remember how that.
This one, right?
So,
yeah. What's
got two thumbs and
what's got two thumbs and the least amount of hair on this podcast?
Yeah. This one. Yeah. That's what comes to my mind when I hear it. But right. It's not terrible. Obviously, it made it through the entire list of names yet, and you put it on here. So something made it stand out that you grabbed it and put it here. So
yep.
It's like anything, you can brand it, but it's the price to value compared to Voice Labs, nowhere near it.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's an important point. And that's why we try to get a diverse group of names here that, a couple of different extensions, if possible, the fnd.org. I basically search on the NameJet platform for names with, good, what names have back orders, and then, just try to get a collection of things that, give us some opportunity to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and whatnot. So, but yeah, I think that, but this is all good and insightful stuff. And like I said, what I'm going to do, so for the benefit of the audience, we'll attach the spreadsheet, the Excel sheet, to the post, so you can download it and see some of the data that we're looking at, to put it all in one convenient place and see if, that helps your, your experience in putting some back orders possibly, or bids on these names at NameJet. So, all right, well, good stuff. And with that, we're at the end of the second segment. So we're going to jump really quick to hear from a few of our sponsors who support us in our mission. And then we will be right back to dive into segment 3 here on Domain Sherpa.
FD was built by domain investors to increase your inquiries, sales, and profit. Forget spreadsheets and archived emails. Manage your entire investment portfolio in one place using a secure and completely confidential platform. Learn more at ft.com. That's ft.com.
Welcome back, everybody. We are here on Domain Sherpa Reviews, and we're about to dive into segment 3, which is our industry update, or what's going on. So in this segment, we talk about industry trends and other general updates, domain space or otherwise. So, let's go ahead and start with Michael and Brian. And, Michael, what do you guys got going on? What's anything you want to talk about, whether it relates to what you guys have going on at Grit, or just in the space, or what's on your mind?
Sure. Yeah. We've got a lot going on. We've already had a really busy start to the year. A lot of good sales getting booked. We always want to mention our newsletter. It goes out once a month. It's usually around mid-month, and you can go to our website and sign up for that. We always have a lot of good listings in there, some of our newer brokerages, and there's everything from there's a bargain bin section all the way up to 6-7 figure domains.
Yeah, I'm a fan of your newsletter, man. You guys do a really, really good job, and that's at gritbrokerage.com. They go and sign up.
Correct. Yep, it's right on the front page there.
Cool.
If you check out gritbrokerage.net, that's our archive. And there's a sign up page there as well.
Cool.
And then a few names we throw out there that we're working on. Not the highest value name we're working on, but something that's really good domain that I keep hearing the word over and over is sacrifice.com.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like it's kind of a trending word, and we're super excited to be working on that.
Very cool.
As well as, we have clout.com, whirl.com. We have just a lot of really good one-word domains. We also have portfolios of great domains available for investors, some traffic names, some 4-letter domains, just a lot of good domains coming through the pipeline. So always happy to help buyers and sellers. And then just a few things going on in the domain industry in general. Kind of interesting to see what's happening with Clubhouse over the last few weeks. It's been pretty interesting to go on there, listen and chime in on a few conversations. There's a lot of excitement around domains on Clubhouse. And I don't know, have you guys gone on any chats at all? I think I've seen Shane in a couple.
Oh yeah, we've been in there, and yeah, I mean, look, and I think Clubhouse is great. I think that obviously there's a ton of momentum around there. I was on there the other night listening to Elon Musk when he brought on Vlad from Robinhood and was like, interviewing him, which was just really surreal and kind of crazy, right? Just
I
to,
heard that too. Yeah.
and but yeah, and everything happened around the domain space. What I think is great, it's introducing a lot of people who seem to be new to the space or excited about it. And then you've got a couple of different sort of, there's some stuff kind of happening, and I think everybody's trying to sort of figure out their angle and their play and where it makes sense. And like we've said, we'll start doing, whether it's through Media Options or Domain Sherpa, we'll start doing some regular kind of shows or clubs or rooms or whatever you call it, to just connect with people. I think it represents a really, really cool opportunity to reach people you otherwise wouldn't in a very direct, meaningful way. I think we'll see what happens with Clubhouse in general. I read an article earlier today where they were talking about how they're ultimately going to want to monetize Clubhouse, right? Which is perhaps allowing the clubs to charge people to listen, right? So kind of like a Patreon, I think that's a Patreon, however you say that. I don't know if it'll be all voluntary only, like, almost like you donate, or if it's, you have to pay to be able to be in. And, so I think we're going to see some shifts and changes to how it's not going to be free and a free for all forever. But I think that without question, it's super slick, intuitive, neat app that creates a really cool amount of opportunity. I'd like to see people, kind of get a little bit away from the personal stuff. There's a few kind of people are, there's like, you got, people arguing about, some stuff and things like that. Like, I don't think we need some of the negativity that some of that has been kind of bubbling around that. But at the same time, we also want to make sure that, domainers and domain investors and new folks to the space can, get good information and all that. So, yeah, but yeah, man. So that's the long answer to say, yeah, we've been in the rooms and in the clubs and, so far it's pretty cool.
I had gotten on there kind of after the dust had settled. There's a lot of folks really interested in buying and registering a lot of new .clubs, and then there was kind of the old school kind of domain investors that started jumping on and trying to help them out. And I think there was a little bit of confusion and maybe a little bit of conflict, but I wasn't a part of any of that early discussion. But it seems like in the last week or so since I've been on, there's a lot of constructive feedback for domainers, and there's a lot of people with open minds just about domains in general. And you never know who might just pop in on one of these conversations and listen in and be interested about domains and or just curious. So yeah, it's good for the industry overall, I think.
Without a doubt. Nice. I mean, again, it's introducing a lot of people to domains and in a meaningful way. And it creates a really cool opportunity to have these conversations and connections with people you otherwise wouldn't be connecting with, all in real time, like all very fluid. Shane, you had the one with the session with Andrew Alleman yesterday. How'd that go?
Yeah, I mean, I've been on it quite a bit, and I've got a lot to learn too, because Clubhouse is a positive brand, and the positivity, I don't want to say it's all fake, because it's definitely not, but there's rules in Clubhouse that you pretty much, no matter what somebody says, you thank them for participating. And if I say, I think horses are the ugliest animals, and your response should always be, thanks, JT, for that. I appreciate it. I understand how you think horses aren't very pretty. And I appreciate you, putting yourself out there with that horse statement. That's how every time it goes. It's more of a corporate type public in front of people, and you need to behave better. And so I personally have to transition to more less goofy, because I'm sure that will develop in the talks, but it's a very professional, meaningful. I think it has huge opportunities I'm learning. I love it. I mean, I literally am practicing how I talk, and I'm actually changing the way I structure my conversations when I'm in Clubhouse, because there is a way to run a meeting and to answer, and the flow is different. So I've listened to, I bet you 300 hours since it started of talks to get that flow down.
Huh.
The one thing that I'm very vocal about is I'm not a big fan of taking advantage of new domain investors, because I get the why not. Why not's a beautiful part of life. I mean, that's what drives us. And that's where passion can take you from something that's not very big to making it really big and being a part and even making a lot of money from it. But at the same time, we've all been doing this a long time. And to pretend like something could be really, really a big money maker for them and push that, I just don't feel comfortable, because there is a ton of opportunity in our industry, ton, but you got to guide them in the right direction of what that opportunity is. I was hearing all this talk about, I was in a group that was talking about .clubs the whole time. And I pointed out to one of them in a DM, your exact business is available in .co, and you just register in .co, and it was a simple, beautiful 2-word .co. And meanwhile, they're registering all these .clubs. I said, the opportunity's there, but take this in a .co and you have a much better opportunity to either build your brand or to sell it. And those are the kind of things I think people should be talking about. I mean, for Michael Seiger, it's a perfect opportunity for people to go through it. And Mike's a friend of the show. He's a friend of mine. I love him to death. But the reality is Michael has put in thousands of hours and tools and people to build something that's unmatched in our industry. And so when I tell somebody that you shouldn't do this and you should do this, it's really not a personal attack against that person. It's more saying that I know that Mr. Seiger has put in and made something incredible for new investors to learn from. Mm-hmm. I'm not selling anything. I don't make anything from it, but it is where they should head. So I say things like that, and people get upset because I'm talking against somebody who isn't that. And I have to watch myself. So I've learned from this quite a bit, but at the same time, domain name is not a mid-level marketing scheme. That's not how it works. It's an educational opportunity. It's an investment opportunity. It's a risky opportunity. And Clubhouse is a good place for us to say exactly how all that works. So I'm really looking forward to it. I love it. I really love it. I think we've talked privately, you and JT, and I got to be careful of this time suck. I mean, I've only got so much time in the day. Yeah. And it's killing me because I'm eating dinner. My wife's going to leave me if I continuously don't pay attention to what she's saying. So
we'll be Clubhouse.
That's a rant, but
we'll be Clubhouse bachelors soon enough if we don't, can't manage.
Yeah, I'll be in the divorce club. Hey, I'm a single man. That should be the new talk. So, and a word of advice for everybody: the title of your talk in your room is the most important thing of the whole. What you talk about is inconsequential sometimes, because if you want to draw people in that room, you have to have a really creative title that kind of gives a general idea of what you're going to talk about, but also show the personality of what the talk's going to be about.
With a few emojis.
With a few emojis.
Got to go with emojis. All right, Brian, what do you think, man, about this or otherwise? What else is going on?
So, we were at NamesCon Wednesday, Thursday, Friday last week, and really appreciative that they, created that and put it together. I mean, I thought the parts were phenomenal. I loved hearing, all the different panels, and the guest speaker, the girl that literally traveled to every single country and has the, Guinness Book of World Records. But, and I would say, in addition to that, I'd love for us to get back to the in-person as soon as possible too. I've been to 3 NamesCon in Vegas. Was at the Rick Schwartz, which actually that's where Michael and I started working together right after that. So it's just cool. The in-person, you can't replace it. So hopefully we can get back to the same page with that. Yeah, interested in checking out more of the Clubhouse. I've been involved with ICA the past couple of years, and really enjoy being part of that community and a lot of things that they're doing. I appreciate too how ICA and NamesCon have really made a push towards getting newer people involved in the industry. So recently they've really pushed the Joshes and interviewing those guys and hearing their story, and I think that's phenomenal for their industry, is to encourage more people to join the industry and then give them a well-lit path on how to do that. In addition to that, right now, Michael for Christmas sent me the Domain Game, the book. And so I've been reading that, and it's just, I love hearing the stories of all these guys and, these legends really, and how they get into the business and kind of finding, how we're going to make our path in this industry. So, and yeah, similar to with you guys that, our goal is just to try and add liquidity and help people turn, domains into cash. So we're just trying to grow our business as big and as fast as we can. We did about 500,000 in sales in January. But our goal is more so focused on transactions. So we did, it was about 70 domains we sold through 50 transactions. And, one of the things that I learned in selling books back in college and then insurance is that it's all about, focusing on growing the customers. And because that's the one thing you can't control. You can't control deal size, but you can control the amount of, we called it families protected and insurance, but, how many transactions we help people with. And that just leads to more growth. We, Michael had hired so we have a full-time researcher now, and then we actually just brought on a full, because we've been managing more and more inbound. So Maureen Sullivan, she's a 15+ year industry veteran. So she's, just started working with us. So yeah, just doing what we can to help do our part in growing the industry. So just love all the collaboration and everything else that you've been seeing happen here over the past, 3, 6, 9 months. So definitely like where the industry is trending.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think, and it's great what you guys are working on and what you guys have happening. I mean, that sounds awesome. And, I think having the right people and being able to grow in a smart way to, make sure you fill in the gaps where you have to address the issues you need, and it makes a ton of sense. And, so, I'm excited to see where you guys take it to. And I think that's great. And I'd echo a lot of your same comments too about NamesCon. I think that, NamesCon, the ICA, both, important resources and entities within the space. I mean, the NamesCon virtual conference was great, but, I do miss the in-person stuff. I mean, those were so key. I think they've done the best that they can to do the virtual conferences, and, we hosted the Red Zone, and, but even the auction isn't the same, and somebody like Joe Styler or GoDaddy, doing his best to manage that, but, not having the room with the drinks and the food and Wayne Weed and Monty and everything else is like, it's not the same. And, we need to get back to that energy and that, the momentum and all that kind of stuff that you sort of get from that. And, just being able to interact with people again is going to be something that'll be nice when we get to that point.
Yeah.
So.
And the issue is going to be forward is that we're all going to be like our industry with places like Clubhouse, we're going to hear each other's voices and talks and stories so much that by the time the next conference rolls around, we got nothing left to talk about. Like we're going to have to step out of our range and get some other people from outside to talk to us, some interesting thing. Not that we're not all interesting, but we're going to be storied out. The way Clubhouse is going, the amount of time that everybody's putting in there. I mean, Richard Lau pretty much gave 4 NamesCon speeches in, one night yesterday because he told this whole story. So I think that it'll definitely push things forward, and there'll have to be some changes, because the first NamesCon was amazing online. We couldn't stop talking about how great it was. And then the second one was just as good, but we're now all used to this and we're seeing all this. So it didn't kind of move the needle, if you will. So I think that in person will get that needle moving again. But at the same time, we're going to have to add, we're going to have to get creative in who we have talk and how we entertain and teach from this point forward.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. And I think the big thing, like you said, it's going to be, well, it's either going to happen through innovation around the space, or if we can get back to seeing everybody in person, so I think, and I know, Shane, you got to jump, right? So
no, I'm getting, I don't know sign language. I'm either being told that my wife is leaving or that there's a ship sinking around the corner. I don't know. I'm not sure which one
Oh, no.
that means, but
I hope it's not the
both.
boat.
yeah, I'm hoping it's not the boat because there's not even a lake near us. That's the hardest part.
Like, I don't know. What is it, sinkhole?
Yeah.
But yeah, man, and I think getting everybody back in person would cover that. But if it's not going to be in person and it's going to be online again, then they're going to need to innovate conferences in general, because like you said, Clubhouse is going to kind of make it where we're going to have conferences happening 24/7 now, effectively, right? Same people, the same information, like, much more regularly available and prevalent in our daily lives. So, at the end of the day, and hopefully we can get over the hump though and get back in person, because that matters, and I think we all miss that. So anyway,
Absolutely.
so all right, well, I think with that, Shane, you got anything else to add? I mean, we covered your worm castings in the beginning, so I think you kind of got the.
I know I'm really not very specific in anything I do. Like it's kind of broad, but again, I think that's what's so much fun about this stuff is the opportunities that we all have. I hear people saying it's so hard to do this and so hard to do that. And it's not hard anymore. Shopify's changed the world. Online conferences and ability to meet have changed the world. This is there is no more opportunity I've ever seen in my life. So I'm an example. I didn't have a lot of money. I didn't have a lot of spare time, but I still do tons of different things. So I love being part of domaining. I love hearing all the different stories, and that's what I'm looking forward to most over in 2021, or is hearing these stories, because we have some avenues now to learn a little bit more about Brian's great stories about insurance and just the journey. And so that's what I'm most excited about, is to hear some journeys and also document what people do in 2021. So I'm super excited. I'm super bullish. That's why I'm always smiling. It's just a matter of managing time, because there's so many good things to do right now.
1,000% time, priorities. Where do you put your money? Where do you put your effort? We've got a lot of options and a lot of good ones. And even in spite of how crazy things have been, especially in the digital space. So, and all of us, I think on this, on here can, attest to that. So yeah, so we'll see how onward and upward, or up and at them. No, it's up
I
and
will
at them.
say I appreciated you guys' you and Shane and Drew getting on talking about like the Wall Street bets and other things going on in the stock market space yesterday. That just came out, I think, yesterday, but that was a good talk. And there's crazy opportunity everywhere. There's pitfalls also, but definitely a very interesting time to be doing anything entrepreneurial.
Yeah, well, and that's what we're trying to do with Domain Sherpa. I mean, since I've stepped in as the producer of the network, is to expand beyond just the couple of shows a month that we've typically done. We've got some other things coming soon that we're going to announce, just expanding the programming, if you will, and starting with doing a weekly show, talking more current events, not going over just the domain. The Domain Sherpa Reviews is like a flagship show. This is like the one that everybody's used to, and it's a lot of fun going over the specific names, finding out what people bought and sold. But we talk about this stuff every single day about what's happening in the world, and there's so much that overlaps: domains, investment, stocks, crypto, and we want to be able to just kind of talk more about that, put that out there in the universe, because these are things that are impacting us. And we find that the more that we share, it's kind of like you get what you give. The more that we share, the more we find that things kind of come around to us by way of opportunity, and just have us sort of in the mix around these things. And it's fun and interesting to talk about. I mean, these are crazy times with just wild things happening, and a lot of it good, a lot of it positive in the space that we occupy. So we also want to just try to continue that momentum. So yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to listen to that, Mike. And we've got more of that comes from. And like I said, we're going to be again expanding on the programming shortly and tightening some things up, redesigning the site. We've got some things that we just got to get everything in the roadmap and prioritize it properly, and figure out when and where and how and all that. But yeah, so all good. So yeah. So with that, I want to thank you guys for being here. This was great. I think I'm excited to get this thing published so people could check it out, and especially because I won at least one of the rounds of the what did I sell my domain or buy my domain for? But again, Shane, Brian, Michael, thank you so much for being here. We'll get you guys back on here again soon. And thank you very much to the audience. As always, we appreciate you guys. Without you, there's no us. And we'll catch you guys next time on Domain Sherpa, where all roads lead to domains. Take care, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks, you guys. Appreciate it. Talk to y'all soon.